We need our weed. I don't wear it, but we need it. I need that money.
These angry, mad, opportunistic, lying black women.
I'm done with life, and it's all Jermaine's fault. It's always Jermaine's fault.
If you don't have a man, you ain't nothing.
Good women are dead. Evil bitches, rise up!
You white hoes get, and I want it today, ASAP, not tomorrow.
How dare you say that we are not interested in families in the black community?
This makes Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are back once more into the breach. Appreciate you guys tuning in every day. I need one of you guys to do me a favor. Like, share, and subscribe. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. All the things. Please do all the things. Make sure we get all the things done before we get started on today's show. I think you're going to enjoy this. We're gonna go back to my favorite white people in all of the internet. You realize how big the internet is? These are my favorite. These guys are just my favorite people in general. I think because I review their content probably more than any other people. And especially when they talk about Black people, I love watching these two pick apart Black culture and analyze it from a bird's eye view, from their grand white perch. It's just fascinating watching them talk about Black things with curiosity and genuine insight and depth and a grasp of things that don't always get discussed within the boundaries of Black culture. You know, sometimes it's good to have somebody from a completely opposite vision bounce ideas off of, you know. And that's what we're going to do today. Shout out to Simone and Malcolm. Keep kicking out the great Black content. I wish you nothing but health and wealth and more white babies. And let's jump into it.
Malcolm, I'm excited to be speaking with you today because, oh my gosh, I've decided that basically if I were a Black woman in America, or if like one of our daughters just was a Black woman in America, I'd basically be saying like, go off the grid, girl. Like it's over. Just, I don't know what to do because we've already talked so.
Right away. Shout out to Simone right away. Look, I'm trying to tell y'all, Simone loves Black women. Simone loves Black people. She's trying to tell Black women, look, I done read the numbers. We read the tea leaves. We looked at the charts. We done prayed to the gods. And y'all need to run and hide, all right? Simone is trying to warn Black women, it's time to go. Just pack it up, ladies. Keisha, you're about done here.
And just like Ned Stark said at the beginning,
winter is coming.
Winter is always coming.
Or if like one of our daughters just was a Black woman in America, I'd basically be saying like, go off the grid, girl. Like it's over. Just, I don't know what to do because we've already talked so much about like how the dating cards are stacked against them. Like if we're just playing like a video game but based on reality style stats. Yeah. What you want to do if it's a dating game is to be a Black woman, like anyone but be a Black woman. And now
Black women are blurst on the dating market. And the OkCupid stats, they're one of the only ethnic.
Yo, he talks about this like people are talking about baseball stats. Like the Cardinals are the worst this year. I can't believe, you know, like the Clippers are horrible this year. They're shitty on defense, shitty on offense. They're just terrible. Like he just jumped off the top rope with that word. God damn. It's early. It's early. You guys are jumping out the gate way too hard on me. Like you guys gotta ease into this type of thing, okay? I've been doing this content for a while, and I'm telling you, when you're gonna talk about Keisha like that, you gotta put some lube on it. You can't just jam it right in like that. You guys are killing me. You guys gotta take more care. Like, oh my goodness. But right away, it's getting hot. They are ringing the alarm bells early. They're not even being shy about it, not even being coy. Kun, shout out to my man SKC with the 5 ball. He says, working and listening, they had a few blind spots, but overall 9.5 assessment. Wish I could chime in, but alas, work and family calls. I feel you. That is the way it is, but I always appreciate your listening support. And I appreciate the $5 as well, too. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Appreciate you guys coming through. Smash that super chat button for me, y'all.
Give me the money. Give me the money, but I would do. Give me the money.
But based on reality style stats.
Yeah.
What you want to do if it's a dating game is to be a Black woman, like anyone but be a Black woman. And now
Black women are blurst on the dating market. And the OkCupid stats, they're one of the only ethnic matchups, Black women, where their own race doesn't even have a preference for them.
Damn. Wow. Wow. Why would you do that? Bro said they're the only group that their own race doesn't have a preference for them. Why?
When I die, I'ma go to Snow Bunny Heaven. Snow Bunny Heaven.
Because there are a lot of people in this country who do not like Black women, but Black women are the base of the Democratic Party.
Has a preference against. Yeah, it's like just no.
That's they're one of the only ethnic matchups, Black women, where their own race doesn't even have a preference for them.
Has a preference against. Yeah, it's like just no one. So I mean, like so yeah, you're like go live by yourself off the grid because now. Oh, also,
you know how bad it is to be a Black woman on online dating.
Hey, listen, you know what, Chocolate Bunny in the chat, she says, I'm not staying for this show. I just came to hit the like button. I feel you. I'm not even going to judge that, all right? We listen and we don't judge. Because look, Simone told you to go hide out in the mountains, and I think maybe you should do that for the duration of this show. We're going to ring the flood alarms. You can hide out in the mountains. You got to like retreat to high ground for the next 3 hours. All right. Tomorrow, the waters will probably recede and it'll be safe again down in the Valley of Blackness. But for right now, there's a flood alert. All right. There's a goddamn flood alert. And you might want to retreat up into a mountain somewhere away from a large body of water. You know, get up somewhere above sea level and ride this one out. All right. Ride this one out. You have my blessing to ride this one out. I will not judge you any type of way because I feel rough waters ahead. I gotta tell you, I can tell you there's like you know how like when there's like a tsunami, that's what it is. When there's a tsunami and like the water at the shoreline starts to pull back and then all the animals, they start acting crazy, they start moving and running away or whatever. I feel like we're in one of those moments where I'm watching the water pull away from the shoreline right now. I'm watching the water recede right now, and I think there's a tidal wave coming. Shout out to Rational B with the $2. He says, the Black women ain't God no more. Hey, bro, I don't know where you think you are, but around here, the Black woman is always God, forever and evermore.
But if man had to find out that his God was a woman,
I say the Black woman is God, and
Black woman is God.
I say the Black woman is God.
The Black woman is God because, you know, she was the first organism on this planet.
Yeah. You literally, from the OkCupid statistics, guys who are like mad incel whatevers, Black women actually have a lower chance of having somebody reply to them than white men do.
I know.
Keep that in mind. That's how
women. Yeah, no, because like white men, you think like, it couldn't be worse. Oh, it can be. Oh,
I didn't know that. I thought white men were like every woman's like number one choice ethnically, but I guess that only really counts for like, you know, the top chunk of white men. Maybe. I guess for a lot of the other white guys, it's, you know, anybody else. I didn't realize that.
Okay, you think you have it bad? You're a white dude watching this show? You don't even know. And now, whether they, which is really frustrating, whether or not they bought in to like all the sort of DEI stuff that had recently helped many Black women in America, it looks like maybe the cards are stacked against them in the job market too. And that sucks. Here are some choice stats from an article I came across covering this. In December 2025, Black women were spending an average of 29.7 weeks or more than 7 months unemployed, the highest rate among every group of women and among all men except Black men.
Damn. They done discovered the Black female unemployment crisis. I'm telling y'all, I don't think right now, outside of like maybe academia itself, there are no, especially on YouTube, like there are no like casual observers of Black people like Simone and Malcolm. They really got their finger on the pulse of the community and the culture.
Slightly higher average, 29.7 weeks or more than 7 months unemployed, the highest rate among every group of women and among all men except Black men, who had a slightly higher average, the 19th reports. And then at the height of the summer volatility, Black women accounted for 54.7% of all female job losses, despite making up only 14.1% of the female workforce, according to analysis by the Institute for Women's Policy Research. And what's sick is that the racket that caused the backlash may be hurting a lot of Black women due to special treatment that was largely exploited by only a very, very small portion of already privileged Black women. So what I'd like to do in this episode is go through the experience of one of these privileged women who has gone through sort of the DEI renaissance and who very clearly financially benefited from it.
Now, right away, just casually accepting that there is a privilege in being a Black woman, right? There's no like beating around the bush. There's no trying to like white-splain the very idea that a Black woman could have something like privilege, right? Just a general de facto acceptance that there is a privilege for many Black women.
I have Black mother privilege. And I'm going to start breaking that down for y'all. Because there is a privilege for me as a Black mother. I'm not going to have the same relationship. My sons adore me. My sons will put their life on the line in a New York minute over me. My sons will lose everything they have over me. Over me? It ain't happening. My sons will turn on their father over me. Over me? So when you ask me about my Black sons, the relationship does not correlate the same to what I'm saying about Black men.
So what I'd like to do in this episode is go through the experience of one of these privileged women who has gone through sort of the DEI renaissance and who very clearly financially benefited from it, and then now is experiencing the fallout as there has been backlash against it. And then I want to look at examples of other instances in which presumably well-intentioned, though we'll see it's not really, efforts to help specific groups have backfired, ultimately hurting them. Mm-hmm. And I think really the punchline of this is what you actually see when you look at other or previous like favoritism or affirmative action programs. They were never actually meant to help underprivileged groups. And this is super interesting. I didn't really put this all together until I just started doing research for this episode. But really what it is a dominant power, be it like a regime or colonial power, chooses a specific minority group to basically be its minions and execute its prerogative. And then when that colonial power like either loses some footing or there's a regime change, that group of minions that they had empowered disproportionately to do their bidding gets major backlash.
Yes, we see this with Jews a lot.
You see this with Jews. You see this. I'm going to give examples from Rwanda. I'm going to give examples from Protestants in England.
It's almost like they're describing liberalism and progressivism as a type of colonizing force, and Black women have been used as a type of weapon in this new colonizing force. And I think that's a little bit accurate. Very much accurate, actually.
So what I'm pointing out, though, is what we don't realize is that Black women in this instance were the minions of the latest colonial power. We literally call the Progress Pride flag the colonizer's flag of the urban monoculture. The urban monoculture had appointed Black women.
Black women are colonizers. Oh my God. We've come all the way full circle now from oppression to colonizers. Black women have become colonizers now. Shout out to Mr. Enigma with the 233. Victory has defeated you at moment. Yeah, victory has defeated Black women. And I've been watching it and low-key charting this for a while, and I haven't been the only one. Obviously, it got to a point where anybody who cares to pay attention could see the writing on the wall. Pendulums would be swinging, tides would be turning, all these things were happening.
And just like Ned Stark said at the beginning,
Winter is coming.
winter is always coming.
As their minority group minions to execute their bidding and had installed them systematically in
empowered
positions
them.
of power. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and what's fascinating is as soon as people realized, well, this is unfair because only black women have access to it. Why don't we just make trans people our community of power? They abandoned black women.
Yeah, and then since there's been at least a partial regime change, both of those groups have seen a major falling out. And
yes, right now there is, beef between black women and trans women. There's always been a little simmering thing there because black women maybe too often get labeled or mislabeled as transgender. It's an unfortunate thing.
what sucks if you let's say you're a Tutsi in Rwanda, or you're, some other group that has been given disproportionate power by the regime in charge or by a foreign colonist, right? That foreign group or the regime that's in power, they're sitting high, right? They're above the fray, right? They're fine. Okay, we'll go with Tutsis in Rwanda, and for context, I'll just jump forward to this example of what happened, because I think not that many people are familiar with Rwanda genocide because it's kind of depressing. Belgian colonial authorities radicalized and elevated the Tutsi minority as superior, reserving most education and administrative posts for them, and then using Tutsi chiefs to enforce forced labor on the Hutu majority. And then after the late 1950s, there was an independence struggle. And in the 1959 to 62 social revolution, Hutu elites seized power, carried out massacres, imposed systematic discrimination, and drove hundreds of thousands of Tutsi into exile. And that laid the groundwork for subsequent 1994 genocide. So the Tutsis went from being given all this privilege and extra education and kind of given the power to anger a lot of people. And then in the end, they got genocided.
And this is kind of a common theme with a lot of these leftist, revolutionary type movements. Ultimately, one group or another gets crushed under the wheel of progress. And I guess what we're looking at right now is Black women and Black America, by extension, being ground down into dust under the wheel of progress, because progress is all that matters. It's not really Black this or Black that or any other particular ethnic group. As long as we keep making progress, as long as the numbers on the chart go up.
And it's just it's one of the more extreme and stark cases where a very externally created privileged status then intensified into backlash that was really violent. But this whole time, the Belgians are fine, right? And it's not like all Tutsis were they actively choosing to participate in this, right? This is over multi-generation. In 1994 is when the genocide took place, and a lot of this stuff was happening in the early 50s. So kids of people who had no participation in this are getting caught up in it. And that's what really sucks about this, favoritism is a very small minority of the minions, we'll say the colonial minions, gets to benefit from the favoritism, the DEI, the affirmative action, the whatever it is, right?
The DEI, the affirmative action, and frankly, just the general nature of a lot of these shadowy NGO, USAID affiliated type groups, they operate as a loose patronage network. And it becomes a type of club where, you can be on the outskirts making a little tiny bit of money, but if you make the right connections, if you say the right lines in front of the right people, your money will start to just magically increase, and then you'll start to be famous and wealthy. You might become a professor. You might get an honorary degree. All kinds of things open up for you under the guise of this democratic progressive patronage network.
And then everyone else in their group pays a very big price, typically I would say a disproportionate price. And I just didn't realize until today that is probably happening to Black women. But I have this great short little essay that I came across, just a little treasure, by one of the Black women who I would say was one of the few very elite beneficiaries of DEI, who's now very angry about the beginning of the end. And so what happened basically was the Purse, which is a sort of financial management economics focused Substack, published a guest essay from Sis Sally Bowen, which is titled "Black Women Aren't Just Unemployed, They're Being Erased."
Not erased. Not erased. How you gonna erase God? You can't erase God.
But if man had to find out that his God was a woman,
I say the black woman is God, and
Black woman is God.
I say the black woman is God.
The black woman is God because, you know, she was the first organism on this planet.
How they gonna just erase God? The nerve of these people.
And I'm going to share some choice quotes from the article.
I want to go into a few other challenges that Black women have in regards to this stuff.
Yeah.
One is cultural, and the other is, what's the word I'm looking for? So one is
like,
oh yes, the other is in terms
like the
of
fact that immigrants are so much better off than like descendants of slaves.
Black women who grow up in the United States, you typically, when you're sort of building your personality, as we talk about, you have a sort of theory of mind that's constantly running in the background and determines what you think about things. So what I mean by that is you experience some environmental stimuli, you experience some thought, and you're trying to decide what emotion you have in response to that. What you do is you say, there's a part of your brain, your consciousness, that references this theory of mind that's running and is asking, what does somebody like me feel about this? Because you can feel different things. I mean, we call this like Addams family theory. If you want to interpret, wilted roses positively, you can. It's completely determined on how you see yourself and what sort of person you see yourself as.
On the other hand as well, there is the phenomenon of attempting to look inside another person and try to understand what they feel, that these are levels of understanding. So like when you look at, the plight of the average Black woman and try to imagine what's going on in their minds, I wonder what that looks like internally.
We need our weed. I don't wear it, but we need it.
Feel about this, because you can feel different things. I mean, we call this like Addams family theory. If you want to interpret, wilted roses positively, you can. It's completely determined on how you see yourself and what sort of person you see yourself as. Mm-hmm. Most people really only have as a choice for this internal model of themselves a trope that they are aware of in society, because they do not have. It's very rare for somebody to have the self knowledge and ownership to be able to construct their own trope of themselves completely a priori. And the problem is that when you are choosing that trope, or that trope is sort of chosen for you, it's chosen from a number of tropes you see in your society. And this is where like representation does actually matter. The problem is that Black women do not have many tropes to choose between, and the ones that they do have to choose between are generally pretty unlikable and toxic.
Whoa, let's take a moment. Let's take a moment to think about the unlikable and toxic tropes that Black women have to choose between. And shout out to my man Clay Bisbee with the 5-ball. I have no idea what's going on, but give me a hose mask for those crying daggles. Shout out to my man Clay Bisbee. Shout out to all the women who have a hard time choosing between impossible, unlikable tropes.
Hose man, hose man, hose man, hose man, hose man, hose man.
This is about targeting women of color in the United States of America. Don't tell me, because I didn't get a single apology.
Time has expired.
My life was threatened. Thank you.
Hose man, hose man, hose man, hose man, hose man, hose man, hose man.
Now the problem I think Malcolm is stepping on like a landmine right now is the image and representation issue that Black women have been complaining about, and in terms of media, you know, television and movies and things like that. And on the one hand, just as a casual observer, I get it's a human nature thing to maybe want to you know, see yourself on TV, right? I want to see me staring right back at me. We all want to be big stars. We don't know why, we don't know how. When everybody loves you, you know, I understand that desire, that draw, right? But I think what's happened, and I remember years ago, Tommy Sotomayor, he had a bit he would do called Hollywood Clowning Black Women, and he would show maybe commercials or you know, little bits of film or whatever, where it would just show the most awful stereotype and caricature of the Black woman. And what I think has happened is, because progressivism is a very Marxist inversion theory type of ideology, that they attempt to force ugly on us and call it beauty as a type of like what they call humiliation ritual, right? And one of their most prominent weapons of doing that is to put Black women in a really awful light and then force them on you and say you're racist, you're sexist, you don't like Black women if you don't want to be abused by the fat Black, you know, sassy mammy stereotype. And it's been very effective.
How dare you say that we are not interested in families in the Black community?
We are absolutely winning right now. Absolutely. We have done more than change the conversation. We changed the balance of power in the federal government.
Aspiring to be patriarchs like what white men have, that isn't freedom. That isn't going to help anybody. It's certainly not going to help Black people.
But Black power starts with Black women. It just does.
Where like representation does actually matter. The problem is that Black women do not have many tropes to choose between, and the ones that they do have to choose between are generally pretty unlikable and toxic.
Yeah.
And so when they're choosing, like, what is it like to be me? Like, what's my personality as a Black woman? Yeah, they may see Black women astronauts now, and they may see Black women lead characters now, but they all have like one of two personality profiles constructed by woke people that in real life are actually quite toxic to be around.
You know, one thing that, just a very personal moment of mine, but one thing that I thought was a bit ironic and odd, but I refused to like be negative about it in any way, because, you know, I didn't know what to do with it. I just, you know, we're going to see where this goes, you know, that kind of thing. My daughter, my youngest daughter, for whatever reason, is very much into like Japanese anime, K-pop style things. If she asks me for, you know, to buy her anything, it's some little Japanese thing I do not understand and know nothing about. And she's a little Black girl. And I just like, where did you get this from? Why are you like this? Like, but again, because like Malcolm is saying, the tropes that are too easy for her to choose from, I guess for whatever reason, she's not identifying with those. She's on her K-pop thing right now. And I'm like, you know what? I don't even know what that's about, but you got that one.
You know, the self-assured, sassy, puts down men, you know. Now they didn't decide to do this on their own, but they saw, oh, this is the way a Black woman acts, because this is the way Black women act in the media I have seen, in the world that I've seen, right? If they don't see some alternate archetype within their family or within their church, which you used to have other Black women archetypes, but society.
I mean, there are many out there. I mean, I think one that is more common, because I've watched a bunch of shows, because they frankly have the best fashion, that have like mostly all Black, either mostly or all Black casts, is just like the long suffering, doing it all for everyone woman, which I don't know. I don't see as like particularly negative.
That's not forever. Yeah,
maybe inadequate delegation, but like,
that's a common one in Latin American culture too.
Yeah.
But the second thing I was going to say is it's a Black cultural problem. So we'll do a separate episode on this someday, where I'd point out that Black Americans took a lot of their culture from the culture that I come from, the Scots-Irish culture. They are culturally very, very, very similar.
Yeah. I remember. I think Thomas Sowell was the original. Well, in my world, at least, that was the first time I ever came across that idea that a lot of the OG Black culture from like the Deep South, going all the way back to like literally the plantations, is because we were cheek to cheek in the fields next to white people who were, you know, slaves, quote unquote, right? The Scottish and the Irish.
As I point out, you know,
I find that surprising that you'd say that. I mean, because I feel like if you look at the cultural anthropology of Black Americans, there's so much like French influence. That's why you see a lot of French influence in Black names in America. You've got the whole like New Orleans.
The French influence is highly affectatious. It's not actually in their culture. So if I am going to describe a stereotype that is offensive of two groups gathering, okay? They are out barbecuing. They just got back from church. They are loudly listening to music that is descendant from country and blues music.
Right. This is like exactly what like we would do.
They are eating fried chicken and eating watermelons,
which we would too. Yeah. Okay. Actually, never mind. Yeah. Okay. Fair.
What two groups have parties exactly like that?
Yeah.
Rednecks, the group that I come from, and Black Americans.
Black Americans and rednecks are somehow, and not all, but I think there's definitely a part of Black culture that he's talking about. But yeah, there is a redneck Black America through line that's just a part of American culture. Yes, Miss Cantrell. Malcolm comes from rednecks. He probably hates half his family. You know how that is. Goddamn hillbillies.
They are highly resistant to people who think like they feel in an inflectious anger to people who think they're better than them. They are both highly conspiratorial groups, very obsessed with conspiracy theories. They both are anti-authority groups. They are both unusually violent groups, but
and that's what makes America great. Anti-authoritarian, hillbilly, redneck, Black and white people.
The one thing that the Black culture did not copy over, which has unfortunately hugely damaged them, is a reflective disgust for people showing off wealth or status. And as such, Black culture, unfortunately, has a problem with investing too much of the money they pull in signs of wealth and status.
Remember, Dirty Folk said, girls just like shiny. And I felt them on that one. That is a real thing. And then Black culture being highly feminized and girl coded. Black culture as a thing just like shiny. If you want to get Black culture into something, make it shiny.
Particularly expensive ones, where you will see even like famous rappers rent jewelry so they can look even wealthier than most rapper jewelry is rented. Did you not know that? It's so that they can look even that much more wealthier than they actually are. Like they should have all of the money they ever need. And yet they need to show off an even exaggerated and fake iteration of their wealth, which is obviously like hyper toxic, which puts them in a uniquely financially insecure situation. But continue.
Damn, he just called out Black rappers. You niggas ain't got no money. Growing up is realizing that most of your favorite Black rappers were basically struggling middle class artists, y'all. Shout out to Facebacks with the $9.99. He says B-dubs have no value. Their entire existence is supplemented by the U.S. government based on their ability to sell their children or men to a government system. See child support or psych meds. That was very brutal. That was depressing. That was very, very, very depressing. I don't know why you had to hit us with that. That was like a gut check. That was really a gut check. Shout out to Facebacks with the $9.99, y'all.
A lot of people seem to not understand me.
Science proves that the Black woman is God. We're not just saying that.
And the black and Latino women, they manifested themselves out of dark matter energy. All right.
I believe the black woman is God.
Black woman, God. I don't believe God, no man. I believe God, a black woman.
The black woman is God.
But my number one subject matter is the black woman is God. That's first and foremost.
Black woman is God.
The black woman is still God.
You're God, black woman.
The black woman is God. She is the creator. She is the sustainer. She is the provider. She is the first teacher of the children. She is everything to the black race.
But don't get it wrong. I am still a white man's whore.
Woo! Shout out to Facebacks with the $9.99. I see we got a lot of people filling in here. Do me a favor, pull up a chair, sit down, get comfortable, and be like Facebacks, y'all. Smash that super chat button for me.
Hulk! Smash! Smash you! You make Hulk angry. You not like Hulk angry. Hulk no like fighting girls.
Wow. Okay. Sorry. I just now need to look into jewelry rental because that's fascinating.
Well, actually, another place you see this in black culture is in the ways that blacks form gangs. Blacks never formed a gang that was as hierarchically organized as successfully as the Catholic gangs, like the mob or the mafia or MS-16 or whatever. They have had large gangs like the Crips and the Bloods and stuff like that, but they
not MS-16. If you thought MS-13 was bad, you have no idea how horrible MS-16 must be.
Function more like backwoods gangs, which would be like groups with lots of internal warring factions that are highly decentralized and often at war with themselves as much as the outside.
And this is why the Mexican cartels, Mexican mafia, La M, all that stuff, they eventually pushed out a lot of the black gangs dominating the streets and the jails in the West Coast, man. The days of Black Compton, there's so much drama in the LBCs, kind of hard being Snoop D-O Double G. That shit's over now.
Which is why when you would think that blacks should have more domination over criminal enterprises, it's often other groups of immigrant gangs that have more domination over the large organized criminal enterprises. And the black gangs that are usually exploited by those gangs as foot soldiers.
Okay. Interesting. Right. Anyway, yes, I'm going to read this woman's Substack article. Black women aren't just unemployed; they're being arrested. First, she lays out the landscape. I'm going to read most of the article because it's pretty short, but I'll go fast. So she sets out the landscape. Since last fall, general unemployment rates in the U.S. have ticked up 4.4% from 4% at the start of 2025. At the same time, the jobless rate for Black women has surged from 5.4% in January 2025 to a high of 7.5% last September. Economist Katisha Roy estimates that since 2020, the real unemployment rate for Black women is 10.23%, which is really high. There have been several factors linked to the disproportionate destabilization. The huge AI push, which is automating jobs that humans were once paid to do, is one. Last year's mass cut of government jobs, where Black women are represented at twice the rate as in the private sector, and then the abrupt elimination of DEI programs under the current Trump administration are notable others.
Now,
as one of those Black women sidelined from the job market, this crisis feels personal. I didn't know. I just finished reading that Black women are employed in the government at twice the rate as the private sector. That is crazy.
Well, because they benefit from DEI more in the government than in the private sector. And I want to note here, first of all, the mere fact that we are seeing a statistical fallout from the number of jobs that were cut in the government indicates that DOGE was actually effective, because a lot of people have been like, no, it wasn't effective. They just rehired them all as contractors. And it's like, well, clearly not. Or these Black women wouldn't be having an employment issue, right? So they must be rehiring the ones who weren't there for DEI reasons, which sounds like a good thing for me. The second issue that we're dealing with here is when you create something like DEI, you create a perception on the market, especially if they've gone on to like higher positions than they would otherwise be able to get within the government, which they did get. You just cannot trust their competence if somebody meets X racial heuristics, right? And Black women have unfortunately been left in that position sort of on the job market, where somebody is just going to, even a Black woman who's just being sane about things like, oh, I bet you she had it easy, you know, because
she probably wasn't subject to the same pressures. And I honestly, I didn't believe her. I was like, that can't be true. But it is true that data from federal EEO reports and labor researchers show that Black women are roughly twice the share of overall labor in the federal and broader public sector employment. So they're about 11 to 12% of the federal workforce versus roughly 6 to 7% of the civilian labor force. So
I'd also point out
just to point out, their share in the private sector roughly represents their share of the population. So it's not weird. It's not like they're discriminated against in the private sector. It's that there's clearly positive discrimination of some sort in the public sector.
And that right there is really like the silver bullet against the argument that there is systemic oppression, systemic racism, you know, any systemic kind of disadvantaging of Black women. There is none of that. And especially from a government standpoint, the government has laws to enforce anti-discrimination policies and the free market. And then in the actual public sector, the government goes even harder. It goes even further out of its way to hire and to promote and to advance Black women and the interest of Black women in particular. And this is, again, once they start cutting the money out with DEI, with Doge and all that stuff, now you can see the fallout. Like, that's really what happened. They used that to funnel a lot of people just into government that they otherwise would not have had or had no use for.
Even though Title 7 of the Civil Rights Act makes it illegal for any employer, including the government, to make hiring decisions based on race, whether that's against a particular racial group or just something else. And so something's kind of weird happening, because you don't get like disproportionate per the population in government without some form of discrimination, I think.
Yeah, but the interesting thing, another interesting thing we're seeing, I think, that's going to really hurt Black women, is that you have a new sort of favored class within the urban monoculture. And you can see this in groups that are extremely woke. You know,
it's interesting too. There's a phrase that I've heard liberals throw out, and they always use this against, like, you know, white America when they're trying to get a new liberal policy across, when they say things like, equality to the privileged often feels like oppression. And now we're getting this new wave where, you know, if Black women have been privileged all this time, and now they're taking their privileges away, making it more equal, well, it feels a lot like oppression all of a sudden now, doesn't it?
More woke than government, which is something like the video games industry. So in the latest video games industry report, of the employees who were under 40, 40% of them, that's like 20 times the rate of the general population, were gay or LGBTQ in some way. So that population, the larger alphabet soup population that really anyone can identify into if they feel like it, as I've pointed out, that technically by LGBT rules, Simone and I are trans because I don't identify strongly with my gender, which makes me genderqueer. She doesn't either. Like, I just don't care. I do not see why people think
really don't care. Yeah,
I cannot emulate why a trans person would care enough to undergo major.
I had no idea that they were both technically trans. Look how progressive they are. Shout out to Kuna Coons, SKT with the foul ball. Cannot trust their competence. Hence the hard marketing campaigns. Listen to a Black woman is speaking. Black girl magic, etc., etc. Yeah, and you know, this is another thing I've been noticing too. Even like in the dating world, they talk about things like sexual racism, and you know, there are certain things that should just sell themselves. Like, you know, the idea of women being attractive to men, that should sell itself. You know, That's why in order to like sell other products, they put an attractive woman in the ad to sell the product, right? You don't need an ad to sell women to men. Men are already just buying. But for whatever reason, when it comes to like the idea of trust Black women, a Black woman is speaking, people aren't buying that. But that's really the clever thing too, because you're not really selling women and that previous sexual model. Like, remember that famous ad with the what was it, Paris Hilton? No, it was some girl with a cheeseburger years ago. I remember it was like a famous ad of a girl in a bikini with a cheeseburger. And it was a really beautiful looking cheeseburger because that's how burgers look on television. But everybody was talking about the girl in the bikini, right? But that's not what they're doing with the Black Woman is Speaking Black Girl Magic campaign. What they're really trying to sell you with Black women is actually female dominance. That's really what they've been trying to sell you is female dominance with the face of a Black woman. You know, it might be the mind of a liberal white woman or a rich gay man, but the face of it is going to be a Black woman. And they've been trying to sell you female dominance for a while now in the culture. And especially with, you know, all the exaggerations and all the stereotypes Black women are known for, a lot of that is starting to be rejected. And therefore, the very idea of, you know, female leadership, female dominance, hell, I bet you we could probably come to a halfway ground on the 19th Amendment if you just took away Black women's right to vote. Like, that's how bad Black women have been for the brand of feminism and female equality and all that stuff right now. Like, the bad parts of the reputation have just begun to run amok. And so you can't sell Black girl magic. You can't sell listen to Black women anymore. Maybe in the 80s and in the early 90s when like we had Claire Huxtable and all that, you can't sell Black girl magic now with Sexy Red and Meg Thee Stallion twerking at Kamala Harris's campaign. Like, nobody's trying to buy that shit no more.
Surgery. If I was a girl, I'd just be like, whatever. I'll live my life as a girl now. I'll figure it out, right? Like, and that makes me trans. So it's funny. The mere fact that I can't understand why a trans person would care puts me in their weird gender queer umbrella. So trans individuals. So anyone can identify. I could identify as I wanted to, which gets me an advantage in the video games industry. Well, now, you know, I don't need to fill these spots with Black women. And so a lot of Black women were falling into the boomer woke, I guess I'd call it, like the older version of woke, which you see within the government and stuff like that. Which is people haven't gotten the message that the rules have changed about who you favor. And what's worse about boomer woke is boomer woke jobs are the jobs that are the easiest to automate with AI. You know, it is the pencil pusher at the DMV or something like that, which is the very first jobs we should be automating. And those jobs were disproportionately held by Black women.
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of even like the private sector favoritism, we're going to see that in her reflection of her personal experience. So she wrote, I've been self-employed since October 2019 when I was laid off as senior entertainment editor at Nylon following an acquisition and rebrand. I got lucky and sold my first book just months later, a collection of essays about Black feminism at the intersection of hip hop, culture, and class. I spent the next year living on my advance.
Hold on,
I got freelance commissions. Hold on. I'm going to tell you the title of the book and I'm going to read a description and then you can comment because that might give you more. And once my manuscript was done, I pivoted to copywriting. So just before you comment on how like the now dying publishing industry disproportionately favored certain types, and this was one of those, you know, I mean, right. The publishing world was a big arm of what we would call the colonizers of the urban monoculture. They were hiring their chosen minion class, which included Black women and trans people. She was one of them, and she benefited from it. Her book, just so you know, is one, it looked pretty successful. It has 351 almost 5-star reviews on Amazon. It is titled Bad Fat Black Girl, Notes from a Trap Feminist. Bit from the description, Bad Fat Black Girl offers a new, God, I sound so white.
And this is a large part, pardon the pun, this is a large part of the reason why Black women are being abandoned. Because no matter how hard you try, no matter how much billion-dollar propaganda campaigns you put out there, nobody, and especially men, Nobody wants to buy being talked down to, being talked at, being talked crazy to by an unattractive, overweight Black woman. And that has become the brand of Hollywood effectively. An overweight, unattractive Black woman taking the moral high ground for God knows whatever reason, and then talking down to everyone who's not her, because you're not as overweight, you're not as unattractive, you're not as Black woman, you're not as oppressed as she is, and therefore she is, you know, God in this moment. She gets to have all the moral high ground and tell all of you other people how awful and how bad and mean you are, and it's your fault that she's Black, fat, and unattractive.
But if man had to find out that his God was a woman,
I say the Black woman is God, and
Black woman is God.
I say the black woman is God.
The Black woman is God because, you know, she was the first organism on this planet.
Titled Bad Fat Black Girl, Notes from a Trap Feminist. Bit from the description, Bad Fat Black Girl offers a new, God, I sound so white, offers a new inclusive feminism for the modern world, weaving together searing personal essay and cultural commentary. Bowen interrogates sexism, fat phobia, and capitalism, all within the context of race and hip hop. In the process, she continues a Black feminist legacy of unmatched sheer determination and creative resilience. Comment.
So one, where was she laid off? Nylon, right? Like woke industry, woke job. And you can tell from what she wrote.
Point out, just I want to point out, right? The British Empire, you know, the whatever, like Belgians, they're above it all while there's genociding taking place. The people who sold nylon, made money.
Yeah.
You know, like all these people are above it. The colonizers are not in the fray. The Black women are catching strays.
Now, when she says, you know, all these people are above it, and she's kind of talking about, you know, I guess the power structure of the leftist ideological world, but as a concept, there is no face to this group of people. Who is she talking about? Are you talking about Apple? Are you talking about Google? Like, who are these people that you are telling me are like the shadowy overlords of this Western progressive social colonization effort, right? Who are these people? I have my ideas, but I'm going to keep my mouth shut because I like having a channel.
At the end of all this, just want to point that out, okay?
And this is why it, you know, I get that, but we're seeing a collapse of that empire, right?
Yeah.
We're seeing media companies, and a lot of this has come downstream of, as people keep mentioning, the shutdown of United Aid. After United Aid was shut down.
USAID?
Yeah, USAID. That tons of media outlets that like woke media outlets have started going bankrupt all of a sudden out of nowhere. And like, it appears that it may have been funding more than we realized in terms of the woke media landscape. And so now, you know, entertainers like us are able to replace them.
Yeah. Yeah. I still think that largely they're fine. The colonists, many of them have quietly pivoted in a different direction. So anyway,
no, they'll eventually get screwed. Like when
they're just going to die. They're also very old, Malcolm. So
true.
They're fine. They're retired.
No, but when people stop buying, I know, actually, I'm going to push back hard here. When people stop buying woke video games, eventually the entire video game industry in America collapses.
Yeah, they've cashed out already, Malcolm.
I heard Hollywood is going broke recently. That was the headline I just saw going viral on the Twitters. Hollywood is reaching its lowest point ever. Good for them, by the way.
They spent the nylon was sold. They cashed out.
There's a lot of woke foot soldiers that are not Black women, Simone. There are a lot of trans woke foot soldiers. A lot of
the trans. I would say that the Black women and trans people were among, like, they were both the Tutsis, you know. And at the end, I can give more examples of groups like this. I'm just using them because, you know.
Anyway, continue.
She continues. The opportunity to transfer my writing skills to branding and creative strategy was afforded to me on the heels of 2020's racial justice reckoning. Widespread reminders that Black Lives Matter forced white people to confront their own biases about people of color and actively move past them to be better allies. When it came to Black women specifically, this was easy to do because we were in the final years of hashtag Black Girl Magic era. Spanning the 2010s to early 2020s, this period amplified how important Black women are to American culture.
You know, I remember being in the throes of the George Floyd moment, you know, that whole national, I don't know what to call that time in America. That was such an odd moment in America and really in world culture. They were having George Floyd protests as far away as New Zealand, which only strengthened my suspicion that something really, really wrong watching this protesting take over the world. But I remember being in the middle of that whole thing and thinking, what happens when this is over? Like this moment, you know, like we talk about the pendulum swinging and all that. And I remember even in the middle of it, like, you know, this is all going to end abruptly at some point. And then what?
General sentiment during this era was to trust Black women as we were venerated for our expertise on politics, education, beauty, entertainment, and so much more. I didn't know about Black Girl Magic because I am not that terminally online, I guess. But it was this, it just celebrated basically like, honestly, I think it was kind of a mechanism of the minionization of Black women for the colonizers' flag, the urban monoculture. But it was just like, oh, Black women are leaders in beauty and strength and creativity, and oh, Black women and girls have done so much. And the phrase began as Black girls are magic. It was coined by Kashawn Thompson around 2013, and then it was shortened into a hashtag. Just for those who didn't know.
But you can see, I mean, I that's a racially supremacist term, you know, like it's racist, it's white power, it's bad, especially if you're a group that is getting fake.
Wow. Did he just equivalate Black Girl Magic to white power? I have never thought about it. Not in all of my years did I even think that was how that actually does make sense though, because we don't really attribute that to any other group of, you know, women, right? Nobody says Latina women magic. Nobody says Asian women, Korean women, Japanese women. Nobody says white girl magic, which actually does kind of roll off the tongue, by the way. But he just low-key equated that to white power. Black Girl Magic is effectively the inverse of white power.
How do it equivalate?
I wanted to know.
I mean, I that's a racially supremacist term, you know, like it's racist, it's white power, it's bad, especially if you're a group that is getting favor within the industries that you're working in, when you are a group with demonstrable systemic power over other groups. That's why.
Well, also, it seems like tokenization, like you need your magical Black girl. Like what?
I mean, they wanted that. And I think one of the things about all of this, and this
not only that, they literally have made movies, well, at least one movie, where Black people have actual magic powers, and they use those magic powers to keep white people from having a bad day. And so think about the conceptualization of that world and the self-image that you're now projecting through Hollywood. Would you imagine yourself as having all these vast reality warping abilities, but in your splendiferousness, all that you want to do is make sure white people don't ever have a bad day? These are egotistical problems that you cannot imagine.
Comes to what I was talking about earlier in terms of the archetypes available to them. This woman, like, clearly she was captured by this and made herself into this.
Well, that's the thing is of course she leaned into it. It made her a lot of money. Like, it was her livelihood.
But she still, I think any sane person reading this takes joy in the fact that somebody that is this much of a racial supremacist, this much of a genuinely vile human being from the stuff I'm hearing about her. If a white person was doing this stuff, talking about white lives mattered and stuff like that, I'd be like, you're like a really vile person, and I am glad to see you fail. And I feel the same way when I hear about her, as do a lot of people. So that's another problem in this is they like haven't learned from or looked back and said, wow, you know, I really took for granted when I had systemic power over other people, and I was abusing that for years of my life. And I even wrote a book about that, like to dance on the graves of the people who were not able to rise at those companies, who were not able to, for the book deal. Penguin, for example, recently put out on a number of their websites that they only want to take book deals from women and people from like rarer racial groups. And then if somebody has
it's like a Pokemon card.
It sounds overly European. I think they even gave an example, like Brad or something. They wouldn't look at their books.
Damn, we don't want any books from Brad. We only want books from Keisha, Mei Ling, and Sharishkar.
Wouldn't look at their transcript.
I weep for all the indigenous, I don't know, Maori people named Brad.
Is the racial discrimination in fields like the one she was in is very, very blatant and often transparent within these organizations. You know, when I talk about the hugely overrepresentation of LGBTQ people in hiring in the video games industry, that is because of discrimination, right? Like that clearly other groups are being discriminated against for that group to have so much positive discrimination within them, because they don't make up a disproportionate amount of video game fans. Everybody knows video game fans are predominantly straight white men, right? Like that is the group that's why they always get mad at them and say, I hate gamers and everything like that. And so that's another challenge that Black girls have, is they just didn't have a lot of ways of being, models to build of themselves when they were given this option, right? Like it's like this option or the sassy option or the beleaguered option, right? You don't get a lot of others, and very few people are aspirational about the beleaguered option.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There are other good. There's also it's the version of the Ice Queen for Black women that you see in, what is that? How to Get Away with Murder. And also in, there's this other one with this like fixer in DC. These are all, I think, like Shonda Rhimes shows.
Again, this is television telling Black women that you can be like physically dominant, aggressive, powerful, and beautiful and likable at the same time. And that's just not how that goes in the real world.
Which I think are delightful, but it's like this sort of like professional Black powerhouse woman who, you know, is really badass, but, you know, deeply emotionally hurting from everything that's wronging her. But I guess it's kind of it's weird because it's a very empowered trope, but it's also like, but I'm a victim of my husband cheating on me, or
the empowered victim Black woman trope, you know? She's strong, she got it together, she's in control. It looks like everybody would really want to be her, but inside she's dying and she just desperately can't escape the shadow of her slavery and oppression. And she's got an evil man that she really loves, but he secretly hates her.
My boyfriend cheating on me, and I'm holding it all together and being strong, but I just, you know, like, I don't know. Yeah, anyway, dramatic scenes of taking off wigs at the end of the day and looking in the mirror and having a 1,000-mile stare. Let's go on. Also, it's take it for granted, not granite. It's not a rock.
It's granite, okay?
No.
It's changing. English changes, okay?
No,
over
it's
time.
never granite. It's not granite. You're not taking it for granite.
I am taking it for granite, Simone.
By the way, did you know that granite marble tops are like mildly radioactive?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm terrified of them. Anyway, she writes, during this time, about 30% of my revenue came from speaking and book engagements at universities and conferences. The rest consisted of freelance copywriting and brand strategy for different agencies and clients. I was the quintessential multi-hyphenate, and I started bringing in 6 figures annually. I self-funded my podcast about female rap, of course, for an entire season. I started working on my debut novel, and I paid.
You started a podcast about female rap? And now you're upset that you don't have any money? That was really what you did. You self-funded too. You didn't even trick somebody else with money to believe in your goofy ass. You self-funded a podcast about female rap, and now you ain't got no money. And you're like, oh my God, nobody likes me. Nobody wants to hire me. What happened? This is oppression. This is racism. Like, no, it's not. You tried to do a podcast about female rap.
No more money for you. It's lazy. You lazy. You lazy. No more money for you.
Paid off a good chunk of credit card debt. I think that this is also indicative of the continued but unseen and ununderstood budget for DEI. Like, the reason why these speaking engagements happened was because corporations, I think, felt this need to have like their, again, and I think this is horrible, like token, like, yeah, I hire Black influencers to talk about like hip hop culture and to educate my team about.
Simone, she actually said something that validated what I said going into this about financial regulation. No, she said, I paid off a large amount of my credit card debt.
Yeah, and credit card debt is the worst kind of debt to have. It's incredibly high interest. It's usually, you know, it's stupid consumer debt that you shouldn't have had in the first place. It's not even like student debt or like card loans. It's
but I want to, sorry, you can actually piece together a lot of her life from that sentence. What she is saying is that she, one, didn't pay off all of her credit card debt, which is pretty astonishing to have so much credit card debt that during a period of your life where you are having a financial windfall, you cannot even pay it all off. And then secondly, as Simone was saying, that you have credit card debt in the first place. It is one thing. So just so you know, like, if you're from our cultural group, how do you relate to credit? Because like in my cultural group, the rules for relating to credit are very clear. You can get credit card, you can get debt, credit card debt, or really debt.
No debt. No, not credit card debt. No credit card debt. Never credit card debt.
Either houses or cars, transportation. If outside of and even those things, like we don't have.
I think we're very similar to the Mormon rules, which is it's okay to take on debt for a student loan or for a mortgage. I think cars are edge cases, actually.
And for business. But rarer, but we still do it. But never, like when it comes to credit card debt, now I'll note here, we believe in using credit cards. Like I use a credit card every month.
Yeah,
I wonder how much debt Black women hold collectively. Let me see. Is that a way? Is that something I can Google? Let me run that through the magical AI box here. How much debt do Black women in America hold? Collectively. Black women in America hold the highest average student loan debt of any demographic group, with $38,000 in average federal undergraduate loans and $58,000 in average graduate loans 1 year after completing their degrees, while women collectively hold nearly 2/3 of the nation's $1 trillion in student debt. Black borrowers are disproportionately affected due to systemic racism, wealth gap, lower wages, yada, yada, yada. My AI box is a little woke, forgive it. Black women have 43% more undergraduate debt than their white female counterparts. Approximately 57% of Black women in repayment struggle to cover essential expenses like rent and food. Over a decade after starting college, Black women owe 13% more than they originally borrowed due to accrued interest and insufficient payments. Let me ask a follow-up question. How much credit card Okay, it's not available as a single statistic, The average credit card debt for Black non-Hispanic households is $4,000. A significant 56.3% of Black households carry credit card debt, the highest rate among major racial groups. An individual case study highlights that some Black women can carry much higher personal balances, with one example citing nearly $12,000 in credit card debt. While Black households hold less average credit card debt than white households, they are more likely to have a balance and face greater financial strain due to systemic inequities like the racial wealth gap and higher student loan debt. Anyway, back to Simone and Malcolm.
Have credit, yeah.
So I have credit, but I would never, ever
not pay off the balance every month.
If I didn't pay off the balance 1 month, that would be like a massive emergency in my life.
Yeah.
And this is true for many cultural groups. I would say, I think that this is like the normal way to relate to credit cards.
Not in America anymore. If you watch, Caleb Hammer's show, apparently, right?
Well, I mean, the point I'm making here is she's just dropping this incredibly casually. Like, she's not embarrassed about it. She doesn't see it as a major personal failure. And this is not like a genetic thing for Black women or something like this. She was taught that just having credit card debt for consumer purchases is normal.
Yeah, but I mean, that's fair. I think it's also a really serious issue for white people too. For something work related, I've been looking at a lot of credit reports recently, and I'm outlining an episode on what is money, because I think that collectively, at least Americans, are sort of losing their concept of money in general. Of like, it doesn't matter anyway. Like, I'm not going to pay off my credit card.
If you are watching this show and have credit card debt, like inter-month credit card debt.
What are you throwing them out of the bouncy castle?
You need to like get on that. Okay, that is not a way to live. Okay, that will like always lead to bad places eventually. That means you are spending more money than you can afford to be spending.
Yeah, credit cards are bad.
And the amount of money you're going to be able to spend in your daily life is going to iteratively get less. This is worse than like being morbidly obese or something. It means you have literally built a lifestyle where you have more stuff than you can afford, and you are trading your future quality of life in exchange for that.
And speaking of money,
give me the money. Give me the money, but I would do. Give me the money.
Shout out to KMS with the $5 super chat. I wonder if these two know they have just fed the Black Manosphere content for the next 2 months with their analysis. Technically, you would think that's true, right? But because these two are just they are so white that I don't know if they'll get a lot of traction in Black Manosphere circles. I cover all kinds of things because I just do. But in terms of the actual Black Manosphere, I rarely see these two get picked up by any other Black Manosphere content creators. I just have my own personal fascination with their content because they always talking about Black people and Black women. But I don't really see a lot of the Black Manosphere picking them up, which I actually would hope so, though. I really wish they would, but like I said, these guys, they are just too white. And that just doesn't really work for most of the Manosphere, you know what I mean?
We're the whites. Nobody ever cares if bad things happen to us anymore.
But shout out to KMS, y'all. Hit that super chat button for me.
Yeah, our Tetris brick is down here, and your Tetris brick is up here, and it's getting like higher. It's very scary. Don't do it. Yeah. But you're allowing that they can stay in the bouncy castle just as long as they work on it. You can scare them out of the bouncy castle.
No, they can keep watching the show. They got to
not thrown out of base camp. Okay, good.
Somewhere, but like that's a crazy line. I paid off most of my credit card debt.
Yeah, but again, like she was living off of the cultural platforming of her group as the minions of the urban monoculture. But here's where the tables turn. I continue reading from her article. Following Trump's 2025 inauguration and the string of executive orders that followed, I felt a shift almost immediately. Many of the institutions that are most likely to support my work fall under Trump's DEI umbrella. With his executive order dismantling federal funding for these initiatives, the organizations and academic departments that would have hosted me are now trying to remain compliant. My bookings have slowed to a near stop. One, I found this to be really enlightening because at first I read the Title VII.
I think this whole DEI Black girl magic era, and it's interesting that while we were having our peak DEI moment, we had the rise of the infamous Kevin Samuels, and he wasn't the only one, but he just kind of rose way above the fray. And he started this whole controversy with, winter is coming. And he was trying to warn women, listen, I'm telling you, this wave is going to crash at some point. Your wave is going to hit the shore at some point, and none of you are ready for it.
And just like Ned Stark said at the beginning,
winter is coming.
Winter is always coming.
Thing of like, well, you can't have discrimination in hiring. But now I realize that all the DEI initiatives that existed in government were a way around that, because there were programs specific around like, a Black History Museum or something. And this is going to disproportionately attract and probably hire, specific groups. And that included her particular group. She continues, these limiting policies coincided with the great AI boom. While I was used to lulls as a freelance creative strategist and copywriter, I only worked on 2 projects last year when I'm normally on 6 to 10. And while my career began as an entertainment journalist and culture critic, the continued deterioration of traditional media has also made this path unsustainable. So without any other viable options, I decided in late 2025 to start actively applying for full-time jobs. I was surprised at how little traction I gained. Over 6 months, I submitted dozens of applications that didn't even land me interviews. Even when I had an employee referral, the rejections led to full-on existential crisis and forced me to ask myself tough questions. Was I not using the right language to translate my skills? Does a multi-hyphenate muddy the waters when there are hundreds of applicants in a role? Did the author part of my career with a heavy, very Googleable online presence make me a red flag for behind-the-scenes roles that I could easily do in my sleep? Or was it the contents of said work? So first off, I have to stop here, because this is where I'm like, oh my God. She is implying in this statement I just read that she submitted dozens of resumes, which means that she submitted fewer than 200 resumes over 6 months. Why? Because had she submitted more than 200 resumes, she would have written hundreds, because that sounds more dramatic. Do you agree with me?
Yeah.
Okay. If you are doing serious job research, it's a full-time job. Do you agree with me?
Yeah.
Okay. You should be submitting a minimum of 10 resumes a day if you're treating it like a full-time job. And that's assuming that it's one of those like tedious, like multi-step corporate things where you have to like fill in everything uniquely.
Simone just called her bluff. So you ain't really want no job. You was out here stunting on the internet.
No more money for you. It's lazy. You lazy. You lazy. No more money for you.
This isn't something I would remotely disagree with you on. If she, over a period of 2 years, only
6 months, 6 months,
6
submitted
months.
dozens
of, like, fans, you can't understand. If you work in the way that we work, that is like literally comical. That is like, let's just 10 a day. And then that's assuming 10 very involved ones. So either you're doing a very involved application, or you're doing the thing where you like learn about the business and then proactively pitch something to them. Like, I noticed this about your website. I've preemptively fixed it, or here's what I would do. Would you like me to basically, do a test project with you? By the way, if you're like, nobody does that. I did that. I would do jobs for random companies that like hadn't hired me, and then send them the job that I had done.
And that's how you got some of your jobs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm like, dude, that's awesome. Didn't always work.
What she is saying here is basically, I am comically unproductive. I basically,
it's kind of no surprise that she got hired if this is her work ethic. She actually apparently has a very, very bad work ethic, and was actually literally only profiting from being an identity and showing up. That's why she had, you know, the book deal and the podcast and the speaking engagements, because literally those involved just showing up and being a Black multi-hyphenate, as she puts herself, right? Like that is it, which is profoundly disturbing. And again, I want to highlight the fact that these are the very select few privileged people who benefited from this short-term period. And now they're making all Black women suffer.
Ooh, that woke era was crazy, wasn't it? Just giving Black women jobs because they were fat, because they were Black, because they were theoretically oppressed, because they were theoretically disadvantaged. All you got to do is just show up and look oppressed. You know, punch in at 9 o'clock in the morning, punch out at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. $75,000 a year plus extras for speaking fees and whatnot. It was a great run. You know what? You girls had a great run. I wish you'd have done more with your money when you had it. Apparently, most of y'all didn't even pay off your debts and all that. And that's unfortunate. That is unfortunate. But you girls had a really great run. And I think it's over now.
Because there are a lot of people in this country who do not like Black women. But Black women are the base of the Democratic Party.
Shout out to St. Nick's with the 5 ball. When a woman tells you that she's not like other women and hates shopping, understand that she means she hates grocery shopping. Don't get it twisted. Shout out to my man St. Nick's with the 5 ball dropping game. Appreciate y'all out there, man.
Everybody must eat. Everybody must eat. Everybody must eat. Everybody must eat. Yes.
Because now no one knows. It's kind of like the lemon problem with cars. Like you just don't know.
Well, hold on. I would actually point out here that you do kind of know.
I guess, yeah. I mean, you can tell if someone's smart and they have a good work ethic.
No, that's not what I meant. She is loudly signaling through her podcast work, through her book name, through her online fame, that she's exactly the type of person who you're going to hire, and she's going to try to start a union and start doing all this, you know, woke work within your company. The moment she's in your company, start harassing people, start making other employees' lives miserable so that they obey her rules and they show her the status that she's afforded. She has signaled as loud as a person can conceivably signal. I am the very definition of the problem. And
are Black women the very definition of the problem? Don't all answer at once. Don't you I can feel the 1,000 keys typing at one time right now. But that is kind of what Malcolm just laid out. You know, he's using this one Black woman as kind of an avatar, but that is probably why there is this giant Black female unemployment / hiring crisis. A lot of corporations are just looking at the Black woman candidates and be like, nope, I can tell you're the problem. You are the problem embodied. Like you are the problem personified.
Because she was in environments where being a racial supremacist was just normal, right? Like she sees nothing wrong or embarrassing about being a racial supremacist. And so she has all of this out there, right? Like if I had books like that about like being white or something like that, like being a fat misogynistic man, right? Like fat white misogynistic man, why that's hard. You know, like you could be like, wow,
to be the basement dwelling incel.
Also, note there wasn't part of her book that she's fat. Did she say fat?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
She identifies
so that's
as
another thing, right? Like it shows that she lacks self-control, right? You know, so she's, and don't be like some people are born this way. The difference in metabolism in terms of calories that you burn on a daily basis is around 200 calories when you're talking about a 2 standard deviation difference in human populations.
It can super add up though, because 1 pound is 3,500 calories roughly. So that like you can gain weight.
No. I'm not saying it can't add up, but what I'm saying is yes, you might require a modicum more self-control, 1 candy bar less a day or something like that. But like this idea, and it is true that like there is a big genetic component to obesity. The problem is most of that genetic component is tied to your self-control abilities.
You know what's interesting about the world right now? I made this image on AI, and all I told the AI to do was between Malcolm and Simone, insert a sad unemployed black woman, and somehow the AI knew to make her bald and slightly overweight. That is artificial intelligence right there. God damn, that boy good.
And your ability at self-discipline, which is also partially hereditary. And then if you have low on that, which you can inherit, but that also, you know, demonstrates your ability to do a job or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. So she is in every way signaling that she's a problem. Now, I actually do not think that Black women, when they take care of themselves, likely deal with this problem as much. If I saw a Black woman who, for example, had a history of like doing MAGA stuff when I looked her up or whatever, or had written books against, you know, this culture.
Actually, I think this is why people like Candace Owens did so well, is that she's attractive, articulate, not ideologically captured. I mean, this was before her schizo era. And people were like, I love you. You're great. And you stand out because you tend to buck these trends. It's kind of like how
Candace Owens is right now, I think, the most popular YouTuber, especially since Joe Rogan isn't technically a YouTuber at this moment. She's got the biggest channel on YouTube. That thing, between going after, I think it was the French president's wife, and then his latest bit with Charlie Kirk and then Charlie Kirk's wife, she's getting like the most live views in the world, I think. And she has kind of done it by being the anti-Black woman. Like all the things that are popular about the modern Black female trope. You said Mr. Beast got her beat? Maybe, but I don't think Mr. Beast does live streams. I think that might be the one caveat. Candace Owens does a live show, and I think that just might be the caveat. But I think she has like the biggest live audience in all of YouTube, so maybe there is a caveat there. But she has earned all of that by effectively being the number one, like the anti-Black woman. She kind of bucks a lot of the Black female stereotypes, especially like the modern Black female tropes that they were just talking about, where there's not a lot of great positive images for Black women to aspire to for the younger girls. Candace Owens kind of just went the opposite direction. She's married. She married well. She portrays the whole happy mom thing. Who knows what a person's real life is like, but she definitely gives happily married mom. And she's like successful in her own right, in her own career. She's made a career for herself. She could literally work from home. You know what I mean? So yeah, there is a thing with Candace Owens just kind of skyrocketing to fame and success by basically being the anti-Black woman.
Similarly, Tracing Woodgrains had described how being a conservative law student now, it's just like actually a great career accelerator, because there are so many more opportunities for you, because most law students are progressive. So it's one of those, like, it's actually a great arbitrage opportunity. And you make a very good point. Okay, so maybe things aren't as dire for Black women in America, as long as they're willing to like not be ideologically captured by the urban monoculture.
But some benefited from this for so long, and they're unwilling to accept the systemic advantages that their group has.
Maybe start by just playing along and puppeting it and saying the shibboleths of that movement. You start to believe it over time, and then really identify deeply with it. And I think after that point, you know, leaving it is leaving a cult too. Then
and this actually did not start with modern wokeness. I actually traced this attitude problem back to the I mean, Black women probably have always been a little sassy or whatever, and that's fine, that's all good. But this hyper aggressive revolutionary stance literally goes back to like the Black Panther movement, the revolutionary era, where as a matter of ideological point, as an ideological strategy, they basically trained up women warriors, right? And this is my basic concept of why it's wrong, because ultimately warriors, your warrior class is not supposed to mate within itself, right? Warriors were not supposed to pair bond with each other. You go out and conquer and get you a woman, and then you go off and do war. That's how it works, right? But we tried to create a warrior class with Black women, and now the Black men and the Black women are constantly at war. Funny how that turned out.
Then you're like, your family might not want to talk with you anymore.
Yeah,
You'll
other
lose
people
your
might,
friends. You'll, like your entire circle will see you as a traitor. I mean, who knows? Candace Owens may have gone through a lot of that, because I don't think she started out as explicitly. In fact, she started out as very much like, I'm a victim of some form of discrimination, wasn't it? She had this whole thing about doxing people, a whole dox website. I can't remember the whole
It
lore.
might have been tied to Gamergate, if I remember. Actually,
No, it wasn't. It wasn't tied to Gamergate. It was tied to some discrimination she faced in her high school, and then she wanted to like make it easier for other people, and it involved doxing them, and that's all I remember. But yeah, she didn't start off as a conservative icon, so I could also imagine that she personally experienced a lot.
She started her career as a liberal critic of the Republican Party, but transitioned to the conservative commentary after a 2016 backlash against her failed startup, Social Autopsy, which
Social
aimed to
Autopsy.
dox online bullies.
Yes.
She rose to prominence by launching her Red Pill Black YouTube channel, where she defended conservative talking points in 2017. Very interesting. Yeah, so she was like an anti-bullying person first, but and obviously when someone says Candace Owens is ideologically,
she started out with an anti-bullying campaign, and then she went on to bully the French president's wife for being a transgender. I really like the Candace arc. Candace Owens had a great character arc, all right? We all had to start somewhere. Going from trying to pull off this online anti-bullying campaign to then getting online and bullying a French president's wife for being a transgender, chef kiss.
captured. She, of course, means before Mossad poisoned her, which, by the way, I'm referencing here now my new favorite conspiracy theory, which is, why is it that whenever somebody, be it Nick Fuentes or Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson, mentions that they are potentially critical of Israel, a few years later, they have a bunch of crazy ideas that don't make any sense. You know, we get in Candace Owens, I mean, like actually crazy ideas. Like with Candace Owens, it's like now, what is it? That Charlie Kirk is a time traveler who went to an X-Men school. Like actual signs of like somebody might be poisoning her. Or Nick Fuentes, who has been like,
yeah, every now and then she does have moments of ayahuasca. Like she took that drink, she took a pill. Every now and then she's out there, but I'm not going to give up on Candace yet. Girls are allowed to be a little crazy.
Epstein is cool. Or like Tucker Carlson, who, what was his recent thing? That Moscow is nicer than any city in the United States, right? Like these are like actual crazy, or that the US troops want to like grape people after they get an unconditional surrender, which is particularly weird because if you grew up in the United States, you know how important unconditional surrender was in terms of terms during World War II of Japan and Germany. And yet like everybody knows we didn't have a massive grape campaign there. I will admit somebody.
Actually, Germany suffered greatly after World War II. I wonder if Malcolm is about to correct himself right now. Nobody knows. Listen, one of the problems with Germany right now is that as a culture, as a people, as a collective mass body of people in that one continental border, the country was effectively gang raped right after World War II. By Russian soldiers and their Mongols from the Far East. They came through Germany and they basically held revenge sexcapades on the German people. And that's why Germany is as cucked as it is right now.
He followed up with it's like, no, that's not true. Look, the Russians had a great campaign in Germany. I'm like, what does that have to do with anything I'm talking about? We're talking about the United States, which has had multiple countries do an unconditional surrender to it and never a grape campaign. So why did he think we would have one in Iran? And somebody pointed out to me, a fan pointed out to me, and I actually think they might have a point here, is it might be that he is so entrenched in Muslim culture now that in Muslim culture, that's the one culture where it is actually normal to have massive rape campaigns after you conquer a territory. If you want to see our slavery video, it's also pretty normal in Catholic culture, but it's not officially condoned in Catholic culture, where it is condoned in Muslim culture. If you want to hear more about this, go to our video on Is Slavery a Good Thing? And it's something I want to dig into more, because the more...
Did they really do a video titled "Is Slavery a Good Thing"? You see why I like these people? Those are my favorite white people in all of Utopia.
I sort of study the differences between different groups, I realized that Catholic culture is dramatically culturally more similar in the way it's actually lived or changes the behavior patterns of its adherents to Muslim culture. And I've said that before, but I didn't realize how strong the effect was. Specifically here, if you want to get on what I mean by this, we don't have a single case of a Puritan, Quaker, or backwoods tradition person having or been accused of having raped a Native American. This is also true for Mormons. And yet, if you look at places where you had Catholic settlements like the Spanish Conquistador settlements or Louisiana or Quebec, rape of captives was actually pretty common. And the question is, it's like, why? Like, it's a weird difference. So we go into that in that video.
No,
It's even approved of in the Quran. So like
Ayaan Hirsi Ali talks about this in her book Prey, Prey. It's
guys, it's actually a more dangerous culture than you might think it is, and giving it power might be more dangerous than you think it is. And it may even be worse working with JOOs if we can deal with mitigating its influence in our countries.
People remain so confused as to why.
But that could explain why he thought that, because he's just become so entrenched in like Atari culture, Gulf culture at this point, which maybe, but I like my theory better, which is that Mossad just poisons anyone who crazy for 3 years. The trend continues.
Though about this woman's, she acknowledges in her essay that there's now a retaliation against Black women in public life. She recognizes that other people are noticing this trend. She links to their work. But then she near the end of her essay writes, "We are no longer heralded as the virtuosos of American culture. In fact, the values that earned us so much visibility in previous years, equality, progress, justice, democracy."
Those were not values. Those were weaponized buzzwords. You know, this is one of those phenomenons of what they call like believing your own press or whatever. Like Black women themselves started to believe in Black girl magic. You know what it's like to be an adult and literally believe in magic?
Are now threats to a regime set on dominance and a revitalization of white supremacy and patriarchy. It's not far-fetched to assume that a Black feminist thinker isn't an ideal job candidate. I may even be a liability for any institution looking to stay in line with new status quo.
Yeah. Black feminist women are liabilities to whatever dreams and goals that you have laid out. That is the reality of it. And again, it was always this way, but we had a lot of propaganda that we had to digest before we could properly sort out what was happening. And now we've kind of come to this point where we can now, we can spit up the propaganda. We don't digest it anymore. We don't even take it. And right now, Black women are being rejected on a wide front.
At first I was like, oh, she like recognizes that like her specialization in Black feminist hip hop culture may not be applicable in many practical jobs in a post-AI world. Is like only plumbers matter anymore or something. But it's not that. It's that no, Black feminist hip hop specialists are too dangerous because they represent equality, progress, justice, and democracy. And
what do they mean democracy? Literally,
no,
they're out there fighting no kings against a democratically elected president who won the majority of the popular vote. Like the idea, you're literally protesting against democracy when you're doing these protests. And I wouldn't be surprised if this woman has written stuff that is against our elected leaders because she doesn't like when democracy doesn't end with her side winning, right?
But,
like,
yeah, I know, but I was like, oh my God, the irony.
But the irony of, and
Malcolm absolutely refuses to believe in Black girl magic. No matter how you try to put that shit in front of him, he is not having it.
This is something that the left got absolutely right. They just didn't understand what they were saying when they say it, which is that when you have lived a life of privilege, not having that privilege can feel like victimization.
Did not call that out. That is exactly what I laid out like 20, 30 minutes ago.
And so when she
But she would turn around and be like, yeah, welcome to being in the patriarchy and not being
when
favored
she
anymore.
looks at the Trump administration rebuilding American meritocracy, she sees only white supremacy because it is a world where people who look like her are not unfairly advantaged. And note here, what's really important is this unfair advantaging only happens, as Simone keeps pointing out, to Black women in the top 10% of education, 10% of success, 10% of all other Black women just get screwed by this. So basically, she's not, in addition to all of this, a race traitor of the worst variety, throwing her own people under the bus rather than admitting her systemic advantages and working to reconcile them. And I think that, you know, and again, if you're like, what systemic advantage are you talking?
Are you calling woke Black women race traitors? Oh, that's a new one. Woke Black women are traitors to the race. Y'all, we got to tell the pro-Blacks, y'all. Somebody get a pro-Black on the line and tell them right now, woke Black women are traitors to the race, y'all. That means Candace Owens is technically pro-Black.
Could a white man do what she did as a job and be expected to stay employed? No. Well, then that means she was hired because of her race and her sex, right? But fortunately, you know, people like her don't have kids. They're not part of the next generation. And this is something that is important to remember going forwards as a conservative movement about American Blacks. American Blacks are culturally the iteration of this culture that can survive, that's still having kids, is Christian. They are socially conservative. They did not participate in this massive scam that's happened, and they're not going to continue it within future generations. And so we don't need to punish the faction that's making it through at great odds, may I add. Like, we talk about Black women dating, how hard it is. We talk about Black women who get all of the negatives from the DEI programs, the assumption of unfair advantage.
Genuine discrimination, genuine bias.
And this is why we should be so open with the ones who are willing to join our movement, as opposed to stay in this mindset of it's us versus them. We're not like progressives. We're not actually racist, right? Like, progressives are actually racist in the truest sense of the word. We accept anyone who comes to our movement.
Come over to base camp. The water's fine. It's
we need to stay that way, right? You know, and I think that one, and even you actually see this in conservative movements when a lot of the time, now you're going to have a few people who are just like random racists or whatever, but a lot of people go out of their way to attempt to be nice in a way that you do not see in other, because they're afraid that they have this view of them. There's been a lot of videos of like Trump rallies, like Black guy goes to Trump rally versus Black guy goes to Candace rally, and like how he's treated at the two, right?
It's like they're describing Black women effectively being so captured by the left wing that they're basically becoming toxic to everybody else. They're afraid to look at the right wing, and now they're being kind of boxed out by the left wing.
Usually they're treated better at the Trump rally, right? Like, because they're excited to have them as part of the movement. And so I think that this is something that we need to remember. Not all of them has participated in this, but the ones that did, you know, now they have permanent online branding around this, and we cannot allow, you know, a bending of the knee around these sorts of things until capitulation from it, like realization of the horror of what she did, the selfishness of the way that she
But
acted.
I don't see that happen. I mean, that's just...
Yeah, girls never apologize. It's just a thing. They just don't.
what's so like difficult to read
she's
about
in
the
a
end of
cult,
this.
right? And she's not gonna have kids. She's not relevant to future generations. By the way, note, if you're like, well, black people have watch our episode, Black Americans actually have an astonishingly low fertility rate. So one, if you're talking about blacks in America, they now have a lower fertility rate than whites in America. This happened a while ago. Watch our video on it. But if you're talking,
and I've been pointing this out, the black fertility rate, to such a degree that there is one, is being kept afloat by immigrants and a lot of out of wedlock births, which don't really help that much in the long run.
About blacks in America who are born in America, most of that fertility rate actually comes from African immigrants. They may have a fertility rate of around 1.35. So astonishingly,
it's really
they're basically going extinct. And it's because they just don't have systems to support family formation anymore.
Yeah, they did before. Honestly, like
by wokes.
Yeah, but like largely white wokes. That's what's like the Planned Parenthood side of this. On like so many other sides of this, it's just again, this is a colonizers thing. Let's go into that actually. So there's this pattern of European allied minorities in other colonies. So it's not just the Tutsi in Rwanda. Another good example is in Syria, the Alawites under the French Mandate. So during the French mandate, minority communities, including Alawites, were heavily recruited into colonial military units, and then they got status and a pathway into coercive institutions relative to many Sunni Arabs. And then post-independence, segments of the same minorities, which were now basically embedded in the army and security services, became associated with regime power, and they faced very, very intense identity coded backlash and pressure. And it's just really like it sucks to be them now. But also I can point out that this is not just something of like colonial minions. There's also these different like examples of religious and ideological favoritism. So for example, if we're going to go to one of your favorites, under Oliver Cromwell's protectorate, Puritan and other super godly Protestants enjoyed political and cultural ascendancy. And then, of course, Anglicans and Catholics at the time were constrained. So when there...
You know what's interesting about paradigms is the narratives of certain things. Like the narrative is that the right wing, the conservatives, they're racist and they don't like black people. And therefore, black people should avoid anything related to them, their people and their ideas, right? Whereas like the left wing, they're anti-racist and they love black people. Yet under the patronage of the left wing, black people as an individual group are literally shrinking to the point of ethnic replacement. And they call that love. The Democrats love you to death.
Was the 1660 restoration of the monarchy. Many of the previously privileged Protestants lost power and faced a lot of legal and social reprisals. There wasn't like a genocide or anything, but they definitely were on the back foot, and that led many of them to flee to the colonies. Yeah.
To create a perfect society.
A city upon a hill.
Right. You know, Cromwell was right, but he ended up creating his utopia in America.
No, he created a good forcing function, but we may have to think sort of the seed crystal of American culture for backlash based on this very same dynamic. Who knows? I mean, maybe the super woke black women can go actually found some new civilization in space that's super cool. I don't know. Maybe something good can come from this, because something good came from this in the past. There's also the white Christian segregationist institutions in the US. So for decades, various white Christian schools and universities in the US in the South benefited from informal state favoritism and de facto protection for basically racially discriminatory policies. And then when federal civil rights enforcement eventually removed tax exemptions, like there was this case with this university called Bob Jones University, which I'd never heard of before. There was a lot of backlash that catalyzed the modern religious right, whose leaders framed themselves as persecuted victims of anti-religious state actors.
Well, they were.
Basically. Yeah. But here's another like privilege backlash. It's just the argument I want to try to make is that when you see a privileged group that's being, we need to help them, we're trying to give them better opportunities, it's rarely what you think it is. It's rarely like some benevolent actor or like repentant actor attempting to right wrongs. Like, reparations aren't a thing. There is an agenda. These people are being used as a means to someone else's desired ends. And also the people that appear to be given privilege at that time, like, don't weep for your lack of that privilege, because it's like one of those deals with the devil. You really don't want it. And as much as I understand that, for example, white men in like developed countries and especially urban areas where the urban monoculture has taken over and where they're like the worst because they're the patriarchy, they are, I think, over the long run, and this is not to trivialize the pain that they're experiencing, they are being forced to be independent and strong and not dependent on these, like,
starting their own companies.
The firewater of, they're not like drunk off the firewater of the evil, like people in power. Like,
well,
they're building resilience and independence.
This is a really important point that you're making here more broadly, which is the story of America. Like, if you're actually like the story, and this is why I focus on him so much. I think people think he's like a side character in history. Starts with Oliver Cromwell. Oliver Cromwell attempted attempted to create the first real modern state democracy.
He tried so freaking hard. He's like, this is why we can't have nice things.
No, well, his core mistake that he made.
Yeah, Danny, it does often occur to me. This is why when somebody asked me about it earlier, will this create a bunch of content for the Chitlin Circuit? No, fortunately not. This is definitely going to go over their heads. Ask one of the Chitlin Circuit niggas about Alexander Cromwell.
Is every time, you know all the stories in early America where the various factions would get in fights and stuff like this, and everyone thought the state was going to collapse, and they'd go to George Washington and they'd say, come back and fix everything for us. And he's like, I don't care how bad the fights get. You've got to figure it out on your own. Oliver Cromwell didn't do that. He kept coming back and saying, okay, I'll be a dictator for 5 more years, and then you sort it out. Then I'm going to give you the democracy again, and you get this fixed. And then he would do it again, and then they get a big fight again, and then he'd come back again because he wanted.
He couldn't. It's like when you're the parent and you just can't stand to watch your kid muddle through the thing, and you have to have them muddle through the thing, but you're like, no, just let me tie your shoes. I can't deal with this.
No, I mean, no one had seen how a democracy works before. No one had seen in like a modern democracy works before, right? Like, they understood about like the corruption in the Republic of Rome and stuff like this. And I think that they thought that, well, maybe that's because it was pagan. That's not intrinsic to democracy itself. And so, but the Puritans who left England after that period, when they saw how successful because Oliver Cromwell's England was astonishingly successful, astonishingly, genuinely equal, tolerant, and obviously very anti-Catholic. And they come to America, and America, one reason that we talked about, one of the core reasons for the revolution, which is not taught in history classes right now, is that Canada, which they saw as like a connected colony segment, was looking at giving Catholics the right to vote. And they were like, whoa, like this is getting dangerous, right? Like
a little too much.
But this ethos that he represented and the ethos that his Britain represented, you can say, oh, well, they were given power and they did a lot of good with it. They actually created something of a utopian society without all of the trivialities of theater and all of these indulgences that had come to invade society at the time. And if
that example given me hope that maybe instead of living off the grid, Black women can just create some new breakout society. Like, screw this, actually.
They try to do that sort of thing all the time.
Simone really has deep faith in Black women's ability to like build a lunar melanated colony and thrive on the moon.
That whole like white woman disappearing to a cat colony in South America or something.
No, but they try to do like these all Black, not Black women, but all Black like cities and stuff like that. And they like
when?
There was a recent one where they tried to do it in Georgia or something. It was like in the last 4 years. Or
okay. Like the only thing I've heard about is the all-white community.
No. There's a few all Black communities that are. It's just progressive media doesn't freak out about it in the same way.
Huh.
they treat it like it's this great thing. And then somebody tries to create an all-white community and they realize, watch our episode, like what sort of white racist would deign to date a white woman? Don't they know that they're the problem? And so they
I did love that the co-founder tweeted like, please, gentlemen, like, if
they're all dating Asians and Latinas.
Don't apply. Yes, like, no way. She actually has to be. Please.
Please. Like, I'm just as racist as anyone. And he's like, why are you dating a Latina? And he goes, I said I'm racist. Do you think I date a white woman?
Yes.
Like, they're the worst.
I feel like maybe that's kind of the final unicorn is to find a white supremacist.
I don't know. Part of me feels like when she gets on camera and she's like just calmly conversing with her husband, feeding her little baby, and everything is all calm and peace. She low-key flexing on black girls. Y'all got to keep up. This is the new flex here.
Women, they're just, where are they? I guess they're largely offline, but they're hard to find.
No. The real catch for the white supremacist man is the Indian woman these days. That's the
no.
No, Malcolm. One thing the white supremacists do not really care for are the damn Indians. Of all the races, I tell you, Asians maybe, Latinos occasionally, Indians, they'll burn a cross on your lawn, bro.
Anti-Indian sentiment is all time.
Anti-Indian sentiment is like only people who don't have wives or kids. I've never met a person with children who has anti-Indian sentiment.
Oh, well, I have.
Oh, you have?
Oh, yeah. No, it's big. It is surging online. There's a confluence of things that have caused it to get a lot worse.
Well, yeah, I mean, we point out Indians do systemically discriminate against non-Indians and will create situations that are demonstrably unfair for non-Indians in the U.S. tech sector.
So another really big thing is that Canada created basically like, if you're going to a university, you are, you can come to Canada, something along like there was an immigration status thing. And then they're basically,
you know what, Katia, I did not know that. Doesn't quite surprise me, but no one's perfect.
Was this emergence of diploma mills for, as one person online commented or described it, underqualified Punjabis who were just going to Canada and going to these diploma mills and then just getting dumped into the Canadian workforce and really angering Canadians, which totally showed up in our comments. Like, Canadians be mad at Indian right now. So that policy in Canada, like Trudeau's immigration policy regarding universities and then the subsequent diploma mills, was one big factor. Another big factor was Trump's 2025 election, which led many social media platforms to just put their hands up and stop moderating what seems like racist comments, et cetera, which has led to a lot less moderation of, for example, anti-Indian sentiment. Then also Narendra Modi's government, I think, is more supportive of Israel, which internationally is.
Well, I mean, the government in India right now is dealing. It is attempting to address Muslim cultural influence in the country, and this is causing some consternation.
Yes.
Among us.
So then there's that factor as well, like that they're okay with Israel. Oh my God, now we must hate them more. And then the additional H-1B visa anger in the United States, which you alluded to there with a lot of hiring favoritism and several people who are in touch with the Basecamp community, active contributors, have talked about active discrimination that they firsthand have observed in various workplaces, on the job markets themselves.
I wonder how much the H-1Bs and the Indians on the whole have to do with the Black female unemployment crisis, because it does seem to me, I'm not saying that they're directly connected, but maybe just chronologically, like the timing just overlaps or whatever. As we're replacing a lot of the woke Black girl magic employees, they're being replaced with cheap H-1B Indians.
With clearly companies closing, like laying off jobs held by American citizens and hiring based on H-1B status, which you're supposed to be, you have to demonstrate that well, we can't find this talent in the US. They're not here. But what companies in practice are doing in the US is laying off perfectly qualified people that they already had and then hiring H-1B employees who then, because they're so dependent on the job for their ability to stay in the United States, can be exploited. Like it's not nice. It's not it's not like, oh, well, at least the Indians who are immigrating here are doing well. Like, no, they're also kind of being put in not great situations either. So.
Yeah, this is an interesting thing in terms of the anger that's had here, because it's entirely created by the systems themselves and not necessarily by the Indians, right? Like if you were born in India, like an Indian in India, and you saw a system like this where you could get more money and live in a better country,
it's the logical choice. It's still the logical choice.
It's still the logical choice. And you can say, well, it's unfair for the native people. And I'd be like, yeah, but I care about my kids more than...
Yeah, like that matters more. Like being able to send remittances to your family matters a lot more. So there are two more.
And this is another problem that is just, it's very endemic to the Democrats, but because Black people and Black women are so heavily invested in the Democrat Party, it's really hard for Black women and Black people to fight for their own particular ethnic interest when the Democrats have decided that you're no longer the cool ethnicity, right? For most of for most of American culture, especially from the 60s up until recently, the Black identity has been propped up as the cool, hip, trendy identity. And now it's kind of being nudged out by the Latinos primarily, and then also by a lot of this Indian, and also even to another degree, the Islamic, the Muslim representation. And so what's happened is, by being so welcoming, and I got to wrap this up soon because I think I want to do another show. I think I got to give you guys a double header. There's some extra content I got to get off the way. Somebody else dropped a video today that I just cannot let go. But what it seems like is that Black women, largely because they're the face, they're the leadership of Black America, they are being phased out by all these other ethnicities. And you can't quite fight for your own ethnic interests, because the minute you start to claim your own place in America, quote, as like foundational Black Americans or whatever, it starts putting you too close to the right wing. And Acadia, you're absolutely correct. Same thing that happened to the white man is happening to the Black woman. You are being cast aside in favor of a hip, cool, trendy minority. And it's racist if you complain about it. Yeah. Well, welcome to being right wing, you guys. Black women are going to have to be right wing by default if they want to save the little bit of ground that they got left. And of course, I wish I could say I didn't see this coming, but, I told you so. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for tuning in. I think we pretty much come to the conclusion. That's just about the majority of their live stream. They're just kind of trailing off into tangents at this point. But I want to wrap this up at a rough, even 2-hour mark here. So I'm going to take a lunch break. I'm going to organize my thoughts and my content for the next show, and we're going to come back. I'm going to keep you guys surprised. We're going to cover some old content and make it new again. Not old, but we got to bring up another subject. I want to tie some ideas together. And like I said, somebody else dropped the video just today, and just an hour or two ago, and I got to review it. I got to get all of my enemies lined up in one day. I've been on a roll lately. I'm not going to stop now. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you all for coming out. We will be back later with another show. Double header today. Freaky Friday, huh? Yeah, let's let it hang out. We're coming back after lunch, y'all. Appreciate you coming through. Like, share, and subscribe. All the things. Everybody, make sure you do all the things. And then we'll be back around 4 o'clock, maybe 4 o'clock Eastern time. And I'll catch you then.
Aspiring to be patriarchs like what white men have, that isn't freedom. That isn't going to help anybody. It's certainly not going to help Black people.
It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done.